The Non-Profits is made possible by volunteers and the generous support of listeners like you. If the promotion of positive atheist culture and separation of church and state are values you hold, please consider contributing by becoming an ACA member or visiting our product page at evolvefish.com under the Partner tab. Thank you.
Upstairs left us years ago. Still there ain't no fate except the one you make. And there ain't no hell except the shit you take every day. So don't tell me life doesn't hurt and that you don't need the people cause you've got your church. You gotta take your head out of the sky because there ain't nothing there but the satellites.
And we are the Non-Profits. I'm your host, Jeff D., and we're with me are Russell Glasser.
Hello.
Russell, and longtime ACA member Manda.
Hello.
Dennis is out tonight for mysterious unknown reasons. We're coming to you live from the Free Thought Library of the Atheist Community of Austin in Austin, Texas on December 21st, 2016. This show is sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization for the promotion of positive atheism and the separation of church and state. You can reach us by our voicemail number, which is 512-220-6561, or our website, www.atheist-community.org. The show broadcasts live on the first and third Wednesdays of each month from 7:30 to 9 Central Time. You can listen to us at nonprofitsradio.com and join in the chat at Ustream. So, welcome everybody.
Hello.
That was a little rough.
Well,
we get so used to Dennis, and then we don't.
Yeah, we take Dennis for granted.
Totally
all the
for
time.
granted, and we don't realize how much we desperately need him. Hi, everybody. Hi, Manda.
Hi. Merry Solstice. It's the 21st.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you.
We are the lack of the Dennis's intro throws everything into a tizzy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank our listeners. They came out with a lot of mail in this last 2 week cycle, so there was actually more than I could bring.
I saw some of it. It was very nice.
This is not even necessarily the best stuff. I'm going to hold that in reserve until we're really desperate again. But we got that. We got listener mail. We got your news segments. Do we have a shit Internet Apologists Say ready for us today?
I was looking at the last minute, and something recent that somebody Twittered at #nonprofitsnews seemed to fit the bill. So I'm going to go with that. It's a person you know well.
Another not heavily reviewed shit Internet Apologists Say. Well, we can all be surprised together. That's fine. Well, let me start with some news since I bragged about how much we've got. And since as Manda did remind us, it's the holiday season, we have a thematically appropriate listener mail.
Yeah.
Gordy says, are you guys for or against letting your or any atheist children believe in Santa for a few years? If I remember my childhood correctly, once one child learns the truth, then all of their friends know too. Does that piss off religious parents? Well, Russell, you're the person with a kid.
I've already told this story a few times, but yes, it was a problem when Ben didn't believe in Santa, and he just didn't know to pretend that Santa existed for his friends. And we had to nip that in the bud by telling him that, hey, he's probably about 4 or so.
Yeah.
grown-ups play this game of where they're they're telling their kids about it, and it's fun and probably harmless, they think. And now that you know the game, you're in on it, and you have to fool your friends. And that, I mean, he just took that in stride.
Huh. Interesting. Because the premise
is that a bad lesson?
The premise there, well, I don't know. You did what you felt was the right thing to do at the time.
It's
hard to criticize that. But the underlying assumption here is that people can live in little bubbles where their children only ever hear what they want their children to hear.
Right. Well,
and isn't that just fundamentally not true?
To an extent, it's not true I mean, it's less true than it used to be.
I mean, are those parents who are, presumably many of them Christian, are those parents going to their kids and saying, hey, there's this game some parents play with their children where they say that God doesn't exist, so now that you know that, you're going to have to play along. Are they doing that?
They certainly don't.
And wouldn't that be equally fair? If we're gonna start playing this game where parents get to think that they have control over what their children will hear, and that other people are out of bounds if they don't prep their children to keep the other children ignorant.
As atheist parents, we should care about giving our kids the most accurate information possible at age-appropriate levels. We're not going to show them explicit porn or something at young ages. I mean, there are boundaries, but the problem is that you don't really have control over what other parents are trying to do with their kids, and if your kid is causing problems for the way they're trying to raise their kids, like, you can't make the parents, they might. You
can't make them not get pissed off.
Right. And so, but I mean, it's a balancing act because your kid probably has his own friends, and your kid can't control what the parents do. So I guess some amount of social lessons about, you can say whatever you want, but here's what's probably going to happen if you don't, if you just blurt out stuff that the parents don't like. And kids' brains aren't fully formed, so you have to make those decisions yourself sometimes instead of explaining them.
Manda?
Well, when you say not fully formed, I think that the time around which kids typically become what we'd call fully formed, able to make decisions between what principle to choose in the situation, that's about age 12 to 13 is what I've read. I don't have kids, so that's my disclaimer.
Well, it's a spectrum, obviously.
Yeah.
It doesn't just suddenly come in all at once.
But this is right at the heart of what atheism is about, living with morality that's based on reason. And one of the things we teach kids is you're living by principles, not rules, and what to do in a given situation is going to depend on what principle is most applicable to that situation. If you're not considering the situation, you're not being ethical. So kids are going to have to decide themselves whether to make their little brother or sister cry by telling them that this fantasy they've had isn't real.
Well, the brother or sister isn't the problem in this case. I think the issue is explicitly
other children's parents.
Yeah, if you are an atheist parent who has chosen not to propagate the Santa myth, and you still have to interact socially with parents who do propagate that myth.
Right. So there's competing principles, right? There's or competing concerns. There's us as atheists not wanting to fill our children's heads full of stuff we know is not true. And there's the practical reality of getting by in a world full of other people who may very well want to fill their children's heads full of stuff that they know is not true for reasons.
Yeah. And it's not as clear cut as you might be thinking. I mean, if you're at a magic show and the principle of the magic show is it's cool and fun to fool people and you know how the trick is being done, do you shout out to the audience? Are you that guy?
Sort of, yes. Actually, having attended a magic show, I think Manda knows about this. Having attended a magic show which was presented up front as, just standard stage magic, and then halfway through morphed into this big, preachy lecture against skepticism and in favor of all kinds of, beliefs and spirits and mental powers and shit. We got up, complained very loudly about having been required to sign an NDA, since this was, a free showing because it was the guy's, practice run or whatever.
Oh, right.
Complained very loudly about that and left.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Because...
What?
No, I believe
what was that all about?
We had some sound.
Help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
But that's us, and that's us adults dealing with other adults, which is really not to the point of the question.
And you morphed the situation I brought up a little bit. Because you were being intentionally lied to, and not in fun, but for an agenda.
Who knows? As far as I'm aware, that magician, scare quotes, may have felt that was all in good fun.
Okay.
And that it's part of the mystique is pretending like it's really real. Well, I didn't care for it.
Yeah.
So, tough one. I mean, it's just like all these... This needs to be said every time one of these comes up. It's like, well, how should you behave as an atheist? There is no should of how you must behave if you're an atheist, right?
I'm not going to say there is no should.
There's who are the enforcers who are going to go around, like the atheism police, that are going to come around and punish you if you tell your children they're Santa Claus.
There aren't any atheism police, but there are goals that you may or may not have, and some actions further those goals and some don't. It depends.
And some circumstances justify skimping on those goals for practical reasons. Mm-hmm. They just do.
That's true.
So I think the correct answer to this question is, hey, be aware that, yes, you might have pissed off religious parents or pissed off just standard American parents who think the Santa Claus thing is completely harmless. And have been put in an awkward position by your kid telling their kid it's a lie. So you may have to deal with the consequences.
Yes.
Excuse me. Anybody else?
I guess that's about it for that topic.
News then?
All right. From the American Humanist Association, there's a press release here about something our current president has done. Let's see. President Obama has signed the Frank R. Wolf International Religious Freedom Act into law. The American Humanist Association is proud to see this historic legislation signed into law and looks forward to working with the U.S. Department of State to ensure religious liberty for non-theists and religious minorities abroad. I have here the text of the whole thing, but it is a long legal bill, so I'm going to drop back to the blog post that I originally pulled this off of, which is Progressive Secular Humanist blog on patheos.com. President Barack Obama has signed into law the Frank Wolf International Religious Freedom Act. The new law protects atheists, humanists, and other freethinkers around the world from religious persecution. Congress passed the International Religious Freedom Bill protecting atheists, humanists, and other non-theists last week with overwhelming bipartisan support. That's something you don't hear often lately. And Obama signed the legislation into law last Friday. The new law explicitly protects atheists, humanists, and other non-theists, and upgrades the 1998 International Religious Freedom Act. The new law states, the freedom of thought, conscience, and religion is understood to protect theistic and non-theistic beliefs, as well as the right not to profess or practice any religion. The act also condemns specific targeting of non-theists, humanists, and atheists because of their beliefs, and attempts to forcibly compel non-believers or non-theists to recant their beliefs to convert. Mm-hmm. Commenting on the new law, Caroline Mala Corbin, professor of law at the University of Miami, said, the new law has some interesting language in it. It takes an expansive view of religious liberty, saying freedom of religion is not just about the right to practice religion. It is also about the right to have your own views about religion, including being agnostic and atheist.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get this straight.
Mm-hmm.
There's a law by a wolf to protect humans. Doesn't that sound backwards?
Who is Frank R. Wolf anyway? I tried to look this up.
You should have asked me earlier.
It had not only bipartisan support, but from what little I was able to glean in the insufficient amount of time that I gave to this, it looked like this actually originated with a Republican.
Wikipedia says that Frank Wolf is indeed a former Republican legislator who represented Virginia's 10th Congressional District from 1981 until his retirement in January 2015.
And so, did he author this thing, or is it just in his honor because he retired and hey?
It
or just to piss him off.
Piss him off because
screw you guys.
That is
I'm
entirely possible.
On May 9th, 2014, Wolf introduced the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom Reauthorization Act of 2014, a bill that would amend the International Religious Freedom Act of 1998.
Okay.
So, yes, this is his doing.
And then they stuck his name on it because they don't usually stick somebody's name on a bill like this.
But maybe they were honoring him because he was retiring.
That's what it sounds like. Cool.
But still, I'm surprised by many aspects of this.
I've been at this atheism thing for a long time, and I've gotten really used to having to carefully explain to people that, even though it's not necessarily written down in the law anywhere, the law doesn't make any sense unless it also covers freedom to not believe, and that we don't want to be, don't want to be included in religious freedom bills because atheism isn't a religion, and that would be used by theists to claim that we're a religion too. But honestly, I think now that this is in front of us, I think it's more likely to piss off religionists that they're not allowed to, by law, crap all over us. That's going to piss them off more than it will elate them that they can say now that we're maybe another religion because look.
I think that this is an interesting move because we're going into a time when there may be a lot of charter schools, and a lot of charter schools are religious or a-religious and non-Christian religions. And we have state legislation going in trying to stop Muslim schools, trying to stop Hindu schools, and trying to stop atheist schools. And
or more frequently, trying to encourage religious schools without realizing until after the fact, and then having to express their dismay at the fact that the law they just passed allows for schools of other religions.
Yeah, Louisiana did get bit on the tuchus by their own laws there.
Yes, they did. All right, well, that's awesome. We have legal protection. We were kind of protected before anyway, just generally, but now to have it spelled out, that is as relevant as, at least as relevant as, you go to various states and there's laws on the books saying, you have to take a religious oath to take office or something, right? Or saying that atheists can't hold a certain position. And there's laws that are still on the books, even though they're mostly not enforced anymore. But the fact that they are there is a statement in the law that we don't like. Well, here's a statement in the law that we do like.
Sure, yeah.
Even though it's, in large part, we were kind of already covered.
Yeah. And by the way, since I like to give attribution, that was suggested actually by Jeff at one point, I think. But it was also submitted by Phil McKeon on Facebook and at least one other person on Twitter.
Yeah. Give it to him because you don't have any proof that I sent it to you. I sent it to you in a private message, so there's no trail.
I do not have proof.
All right. Speaking more of the holiday season. Are we done with that story?
Yeah. Philip Johnson on Twitter also.
Philip Johnson.
Not that Philip Johnson, no.
Who's this Philip Johnson?
He was one of the
founding
guys.
bullshitters of the intelligent design movement.
Sean writes, "Hey guys, considering we're in the holiday season, I've had on my mind the relationship between religion and culture for the last few months. I was raised in a very Catholic family, and Catholicism is very important in who I've become as a person, despite the fact that I'm now an atheist and haven't even considered myself a Christian since high school." So he's culturally Catholic, I guess. "I was wondering how you guys view the relationship between religion and culture. Do you think that religious elements should be phased out of the culture as people become less religious? Or is it important to hold on to religiously based events such as the Day of the Dead, Easter, and Christmas as relics of where we came from and who we are?" It's really tricky, I think, because there's a point at which a religious holiday can become so distanced from the original religion, like Halloween. People just don't think of Halloween as a religious event.
Yeah.
Even though it totally was when it first started.
Sure.
And that, it's hard to see that there's a problem with that. Much of a problem with that.
I kind of suspect that celebrating it and you're not a part of that religion is what's going to slowly kill it. Like Mardi Gras is the celebration before Lent sets in, and it's a blow out all the stops, eat whatever you want, because you're not going to be allowed for 7 days, and it's become the Mardi Gras Festival of New Orleans.
Right. It's become...
That's a really damn good point.
Show us your boobs and we'll give you these beads.
Well,
it's become that holiday, not very Catholic.
Christ did say, "Show us your boobs," in that one passage.
Oh, sure, in James
festival is
17.
based upon.
Verily I say unto you.
We don't have to be scared of other people's celebrations.
No, in fact, Kwanzaa is quite an excellent rationalist and non-religious holiday.
Right, because
festival.
Kwanzaa was made up within the last...
Yeah.
What?
Well, all right, but
when?
Well, the creator is Dr. Paul Karenga, who himself is an atheist, and he also coined the word spookism. It's a great word that he defined as when there are invisible entities that threaten us with harm. Believing in that is spookism. And he was very against how the black community traditionally has a lot of this threats by voodoo, by ghosts, by haints.
Right. It was the holiday was engineered to be particularly relevant for people of African American descent, but
it was first celebrated in 1966.
And if your family
I'm not
wants
sure
to
why
interpret,
you think this is an issue. You're there. My point in bringing up Kwanzaa was just, wow, that is a holiday that was totally not meant for me.
Right.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's probably a level at which, cultural appropriation would become a problem with a bunch of white people in their Kwanzaa hats or whatever, right? But I'm not sure that the creator of that holiday would object to other people appreciating it.
no, he said it was fine. He said it was for everyone.
I didn't even know that.
My point is, I mean, even there are a lot of holidays, there are a lot of traditions that we consider religious, and I know a lot of atheists enthusiastically celebrate Christmas. I happen not to be among them, but they do it in their secular way, and while it can be hard to disentangle religious traditions from other cultural traditions, I mean, some of the expressions we get come from Shakespeare and others come from the Bible, but some of the common English idioms that we get, and some of them come from Shakespeare by way of the Bible. But that doesn't mean you can't use them. Like, it's not going to burn you, atheist.
Right. There's once again the rules on what you must or must not do as an atheist, or really, I don't think there's any such thing. But that wasn't Sean's question, right? Mm-hmm. I think Sean is speaking culturally, right? And if I could try to drill down to what he's getting at beneath that, the more our culture is permeated with holidays of an overtly religious character tied to a particular religion, right? The more the culture is going to be a reinforcement and promotion of that particular religion. And if we, how can we on the one hand say that we have religious freedom and then have a calendar full of overtly Christian religious holidays? Yeah,
well, there is that.
So I guess I'd be more comfortable, just like it's like everything else, right? I'm more comfortable with a religious monument on a courthouse lawn if the courthouse lawn is just a display case for a bunch of disparate religious monuments. But the people who want those monuments up there don't want it to be. Don't want their religious monument to be equated with everything else, and so they don't like that. So I guess they will have, maybe those people need to decide.
Maybe.
Right? Christians, you want to, tell you what, we'll fill our calendar full of all kinds of holidays from other religions too, and see how you like that.
Well, consider the message of the holiday could be something that's very intolerant. I'm not comfortable with Passover because that's celebrating when a bunch of non-Jewish people had their children murdered.
Yeah.
Fair.
But Halloween, I'm all for that.
Sean finishes his letter. I personally think that there may be some that don't matter too much outside of religion, such as Easter, but others like the Hallowtide. Oh, wow, you are Catholic, aren't you? Hallowtide. Halloween, All Saints Day, and All Souls Day. Dude, of all of those, the only ones that are really part of the general popular culture is the Halloween. Or Christmas can still have relevance in a secular society. I used Halloween as an example. I would never in a million years say that Halloween has relevance. It's not because it has relevance. It's because that I think it's okay. I think it's okay because it is not a advertisement for even religion in general. Though it kind of is advertisement for belief in the supernatural. Kind of.
But I mean, some Christians are very upset by Halloween.
But only in the same sense that The Walking Dead is advertisement for supernatural in general.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
I'm just saying some Christians want to stamp out Halloween, which in itself is good enough reason to want to enjoy it, just to poke them in the eye a little bit.
No, it's not that Halloween is relevant. It's that it's okay.
Right.
And which is all the only justification for a party that anybody has ever needed. So, all right. Thank you, Sean.
Yes, Dan Savage likes to characterize Halloween as the straight pride parade.
Really? Because straight people dress up?
Yeah, Dan Savage is a gay sex
I
advice
know who Dan
columnist.
Savage
Yeah,
is.
but the audience might not.
Okay, yeah.
And he says, the poor straight people don't get to go around dressing slutty on a regular basis, so let's let them have their Halloween.
I hope he's not suggesting that gay people are not allowed to participate.
No,
or that straight people are not allowed to participate in Gay Pride Day.
Of course not.
Okay.
Anyway,
more cultural appropriation. I'm so guilty.
I don't know. There's a lot of because so much of the political news these days is depressing. A lot of the news that got submitted to me is kind of goofy, and I'm gonna go ahead and go with that this week.
All right.
According to Friendly Atheist blog, there is a bishop in Ghana who says that he has an unusual power, or maybe not that unusual. He says that he has the power to make your penis larger if you let him touch it.
I've heard of that power. I think a lot of people have that power.
Is this the same fellow who was almost arrested for making women fertile by his laying on of hands?
I am not sure. Now, bear in mind, some of this comes from UK tabloids, so you can take it with a grain of salt. But Ghana Bishop Daniel Obinim, the founder of International God's Way Church, has been touching a lot of crotches with the promise that he can make them grow. In a scene broadcast on his own channel, Obinim TV, the bishop says, "If you do not like the looks of any part of your body, come to me. What do you want that I can't offer? If you want big buttocks, I can do it for you. If you want big breasts, I can help. If you have a small manhood."
Wait a minute. So is this a Catholic bishop?
I
Officially
feel
a Catholic
like
bishop,
this is
or
just a
does he-
dude
is
doing
he-
his own thing.
Nowhere in the article does it associate him with a particular cult.
I don't know. I mean, I get the impression that it did say that he was the founder of International God's Way Church, which, I mean, is generic enough that it could be anything, really.
Yes, that's not
but
Catholic.
I don't think it's Catholic.
Okay.
Now, put this in context. This is a place next door to several nations where people have been arrested for witchcraft, specifically making men's genitals shrink.
Right.
We've had
So, see,
murders of people accused of making men's genitals shrink.
Right.
He's just,
there's a
putting
market
in
there.
a plug for his brand of religion. He'll protect your bits.
Russell, you
Yes.
advise us to take this story with a grain of salt, but not with a grain of saltpeter. Which
No.
isn't that supposed to be something that makes you not get an erection? How does that work? I've heard.
You're asking me?
Manda?
Yes. The answer is you can't see my shocked expression. Right?
Not on the radio, no. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, the Way International is a tax-exempt, non-Trinitarian biblical research, teaching, and fellowship ministry based in... this might not be the same thing. I mean, like
you
I
looked
said,
them up
it's
on-
such a generic name, it can be confused with a whole lot of other stupid fly-by-night religious groups.
Okay.
All right. So what's up on your
So
end?
speaking of stories to take with a grain of salt on account of they're from a tabloid.
Yes.
Raphael wrote.
By the way, that was submitted by Cootie59. I'm sure he's very proud to be associated
you.
with that story.
Cootie. Raphael writes, "Hey, nonprofits and Russell in particular.
Hello.
I absolutely loved how you dedicated a whole episode to taking on fake news.
Hooray.
That would be our very last episode. I am an atheist thanks to the ACA, and to me, atheism has always been about gaining a perspective that accurately matches reality and learning to discard beliefs that cannot be justified to fit within that perspective. In a way, being an atheist and a skeptic has prepared me to be a better consumer of news and media. Religious theocracy is still a problem in this country, especially at the state government level, but I'm privileged to live in an area that is not run by theocrats, so I don't need to focus my energy on applying skepticism to religious claims because I believe most of that work has been done." Really? It's ongoing. It's an ongoing effort, Raphael.
Yeah.
Instead, I am using the same critical thinking skills I learned from my deconversion and applying them to proponents of white supremacy and conspiracy theories. We atheists need to take a similar epistemological tactic toward the dismantling of these worldviews that we previously applied to dismantling religious worldviews. Okay, so there was a should. I'm totally okay with atheists taking their skepticism training and using it to attack other beliefs than religious ones that aren't true. I'm totally okay with that. But should is going too far. It's great if you do.
Just because someone says should doesn't make it a commandment.
Sure it is.
No.
What else does should mean?
We were talking about raising kids earlier.
Uh-huh.
I think,
Yeah.
it's fair to give other people guidelines and instill principles in them.
The word for that is could.
Okay,
Right?
but I mean,
could. Atheists totally could
so,
use
hey,
their
Hitler,
perspective.
You could stop killing Jews. I mean, I hate to go all Godwin.
See, but I would use should for that example.
Okay, well, it sounded like you were saying that atheists should not say any shoulds. Or, whoa, I just said should.
When you say should, it means you are suggesting that the right thing for people that you're talking to do is what you're saying. It's a fine thing to say when that's the right thing to say.
Okay.
Atheism does not get into fake news. That's not an atheist issue.
No, but skepticism
totally am
gets into fake news.
Skepticism does.
Okay.
Well, being atheist...
But he didn't say we skeptics need to take a similar epistemological tactic. He said we atheists need to take a similar epistemological tactic. So I'm being all super picky is what I'm doing.
I don't think that atheism should be promoted in a vacuum. I think that promoting skepticism in general is, dare I say, actually more important than the very specific belief that God doesn't exist.
We're atheists for very, very, very many reasons, but the majority of atheists got here by being rationalists. So whether we want to or not, some of these humanist ideas and other rationalist concepts, the movement that calls itself the atheists, we're probably going to promote these things anyways. And it's needed. The questions of what ethical choices you make, I'm really big on accuracy. I think accuracy is a right. There's very few movements out there that say you have a right to accuracy. And that's going to change because we're seeing all the damage being done by not treating it as a right, like your right to property and your right to self-determination. You have a right to an accurate worldview.
I got into this thing by being all super picky and very specific about what I was trying to say. So the only way out for me is to stick with that. And
do you have to?
And my point is, look, human beings should care about fake news because I think it's fair to say a person should care whether they're being lied to or not, right?
Right.
But And Russell, you said, well, I don't think atheism has to be in a vacuum. You're right. It doesn't. Atheism can totally go along with all kinds of other concerns. Mm-hmm. And I'm all in favor of all those other concerns. But I'm being all Mr. Technical here. Atheism is non-theism and not non-other thing-ism.
Okay, but I mean,
I'm totally cool with people blending them together. And Raphael started out great by saying, as an atheist and a skeptic, blah, 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 right? Didn't have a problem until he said, atheists should do a thing.
Right. Well, caring about what is accurate in a skeptical sense seems like it should be a universal human value. But in practice, it is unfortunately very undervalued. And one of the ways that it is explicitly devalued is by people taking this point of view that it is a good and noble thing to believe stuff without evidence because there's religious virtue in it.
Right.
Which is why atheism intersects a lot with general skepticism, and I think there's nothing wrong with saying that the same impulse that led this guy to reject the existence of God should inform his I'm going to say should.
You can
inform
say should
his general
when should
way of
is the
thinking.
right word.
And I think that the nonprofit certainly has a point of view that is beyond the generic there's no God, that's the end of the story.
And everybody has complete freedom to have that broader view. Mm-hmm. We totally do. I think it's a fine broader view. I'm happy to have it. Okay. I'm being Mr. Dictionary, aren't I? Okay. Let me give you an example of just why I think this is problematic.
Okay.
So I recently organized a local atheist gathering, of which all of 3 people gathered, not counting their little baby. And in the effort to put this together, I got one message from a local guy who wanted to be reassured that there would be no liberals at this atheist gathering because he can't stand liberals because he is of the alt-right. This atheist of the alt-right.
Wait.
How are you going to tell that person? How are you going to tell that person? You know what we really should do is you should apply your skepticism to things like the examples that proponents of white supremacy and conspiracy theories. Now, I think all people should, but in the sense that all people should care about the difference between real and not real. Mm-hmm. But atheism is not the reason why he should do that. He is entirely capable of being an atheist and those other things at the same time. He is mixing his atheism with other things in his own little special recipe.
That's certainly true, but
it is not possible for us to tell us that those are not compatible.
They are compatible, but the rejection of that I think stems from a common cause.
I told them to stay home, by the way, but
good.
Jeff, I'm going to take issue with that because I think it's disingenuous to say atheism isn't anything except not believing in a God. We've been around at least 2,500 years in large numbers of us. We have a culture. We are a movement, and we have literature, ideas, memes, ideals, standards. And when someone comes into this and they think that atheism is something that was just invented in the 60s, they're not going to be prepared for the heritage of essentially liberalism that goes with a lot of the atheist movement right now.
Okay, I don't disagree with any of that, but
so the question of should, we don't have commandments as atheists. There's no atheist holy book, but we do get together and there is a general consensus of the really good ideas, and there's more than 10 of them.
I agree that there's things. Okay, all right. All right, I'm gonna meekly back away and say I'm probably wrong on some level. I'm just not getting yet, and I'm probably just defending myself with the dictionary, and that's not all there is to it. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Going on with Raphael's letter. For example, simply saying that racist opinions are in fact racist doesn't have the persuasive power it once held. We need to be more critical and thorough in explaining why these worldviews lack an epistemological foundation. I totally agree with that. We may not convince the people that strongly believe, but perhaps we can move people who are on the fence into a more skeptical position. I'm not encouraging anyone to be complacent toward theocracy, but I recognize when we need to shift focus. Thanks for your awesome show, and keep up the great work. Okay. Sigh.
Yeah. We got a.
I don't think I gotta say it. I don't think that you have to even look at this in terms of shifting focus. That you can just keep your atheism, right? And continue being skeptical about other things and have it cover this other stuff. Where's the shifting of focus? The shifting of focus is in your personal concerns, not in your application of your atheism.
Yeah.
It's in your application of your skepticism.
The longer I've been involved with various kinds of atheist organizations, the less concerned I am with compartmentalizing areas of skepticism. I don't necessarily think that it is for the best with atheism to keep those entirely separate concerns. I mean,
look. I mean, it. Yeah, I'm defending myself again. I'm just going to get in all kinds of trouble. See, I don't think I'm saying any of the things that you're expressing a concern about. Mm-hmm. Do not in the least think that it is a good idea not to pay attention to fake news, or that it is a good idea not to pay attention to white supremacist crap. I'm totally just sitting on the dictionary definition I understand that's a precarious spot because different dictionaries say different things, right? But skepticism absolutely for sure covers all that stuff. And I don't see why we don't use the word that is more accurate.
Well, he did use the word skepticism.
He did, and then
also.
he dropped it, and he said atheist. Which is the point at which I raised my ugly face. All right, so let's move on.
Well, let's see. We have a story here from Kurdistan saying that more Muslims, including Kurds, are giving up their religion, which is always good news. Religion is normally inherited among Christians, Jews, and Muslims. It is therefore usually not viewed as a choice. I abandoned my religion when I felt freed here, said a Kurdish woman living in Sweden. An abandonment of religion is on the rise among Muslims living abroad. The phenomenon is most common among Iranians. The Kurds come second. It is also common among Arabs and Afghans living abroad.
Excuse you.
Thank you. The Kurdish woman, now this is, I'm not clear on what kind of news source this is, and they seem to be saying a bunch of subjective things without pointing to any specific numbers or studies. But anyway, this Kurdish woman doesn't think encouraging people to abandon their religion is her business. She thinks that this is what missionaries and political Muslims do, promulgating their religious beliefs and ideologies. In Eastern communities, people normally commit to the faith their families follow. Imposing religion on children is a crime, said Alan, a Kurd who had identified himself as a disbeliever when he got his Finnish citizenship. I didn't fill out information about religion on my son's identity card. He can decide what faith to hold when he turns 18. Whether he becomes a Muslim, a Christian, or a disbeliever is up to him. trying to pull up. Yeah, that was submitted also by Cootie59, who is one of the most prolific users of the Nonprofits News hashtag. So thank you very much.
Cool. Well,
would this go against the fear that people have that folks coming out of countries with a strong religious bent are going to impose their religions on the places they go?
It is certainly a data point that that it can go the other way. That people moving to more secular societies can reach some kind of equilibrium with their environment. Let's say.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's always going to happen, but it's good to consider that side too.
I've got a question. We've got the legislation of the Wolf Law.
Yes.
The Frank R. Wolf.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that going to lead to more people being willing to be out? And specifically, how does that affect minors? Because every once in a while, I'd listen to the show, someone would write in, I'm 15, I'm 14, I'm living under my parents' roof, and I'm getting a lot of pressure. What can I do?
Right.
Does this mean they now have a right to their religion, even though they're not 18?
Oh, boy. I don't know.
I mean, parents can still
I don't know what the law is.
Parents still have a whole lot of power of enforcement over their kids. I mean,
I know culturally where people seem to go by the assumption that your parents have the authority to make you attend religious things, right, and behave according to certain religious rules,
right,
as long as you are still a kid. But I don't actually know the legality behind that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe somebody in our listening audience can write in. I don't know of a case. I mean, I know of kids like divorcing their parents. I don't know of kids who have had to fight in court for the right to have a different religion than their parents. I don't know of a case.
Here in the United States, I mean, there is some amount of enforcement that parents can't abuse their kids, generally speaking. There's a government agency called Child Protective Services.
Hideous blind spot when that abuse happens to be religious in nature.
Well, not 100% blind, because I think that somebody, I think there are levels of abuse that aren't tolerated. It's just that your line of what's abuse might be different from what CPS can or might get away with, even if they want to enforce something like that. But parents have a lot of leeway. I mean, they could, for instance, like, I have no problem grounding my kid, and if you're a religious parent and you could say, all right, I can't physically force you to go to church, but you are grounded from absolutely every kind of entertainment or ability to go out anywhere until you become a regular churchgoer. I don't see how CPS, like what rules CPS could bring to bear to stop them. So parents, no matter where the line is, parents certainly have the power to make their kids' lives unpleasant and apply pressure that way.
Yeah. Where are we at? Did you just did the story about the Kurdish woman, right?
Yeah.
Sue says, we'll go back on the subject of fake news and see how well this one goes.
Okay.
Sue says, I'm so glad you talked about fake news and how to be skeptical when looking at sources on the internet. No, you mean how to be atheist when looking at sources on the internet, ma'am.
You should.
Apparently, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm a librarian, and as a curator, purveyor, and guide to information, fake news bothers the frack out of me. Strong language. I just wanted to add two things to the discussion. Looking at the date of the source is very important. Oh my gosh, yes. Because there's so much stuff out there that seems like it's I've lost track of the number of times I have found stories about revelations about Donald Trump that are posted like, wow, see, now we've got him. And you find out that story came out 6 months ago.
Yeah, or even like 5 years ago.
Yeah. Looking at the date of the source is very important. Some people use video footage or news stories to make a point about things, and the information is out of context. Checking the date is a quick thing you can do to see if the information is pertinent and timely. Also, you can always ask a librarian. Now, there's a pitch for your career. You could ask. You could also ask a game designer or a web developer if you wanted. But she's probably right. Librarians have something they're especially apt, right? Many libraries have 24-hour forms which you can submit questions to a real librarian who will do research for you for free. Seriously?
Can you ask a librarian, Mrs. Schaefer, is there a God?
You can ask; they'll have an opinion.
I think that you better be careful about spreading the news that this service is free, or you're going to have people on one side of the political spectrum thinking that this has to be privatized and monetized. We answer questions over the phone too. We have access to peer-reviewed databases and more. We're pretty much the biggest free resource for non-biased information out there. Use us. Librarians are cool. All right, come on. You're tooting your own horn like mad. It may all be true, but...
I want Little Rainbow to appear over a video of our show. And then, the more you know. Da, 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 da.
That is, in fact, completely awesome. And, of course, like an idiot. It's never occurred to me. But, yeah, absolutely. So thank you very much, Sue. That's great advice. Maybe, Sue, if you're listening, is there like a web-based source we could share with people that they could bookmark on their browsers to get like local links to their local libraries and those specific kinds of resources and phone numbers and things? Because that would be great.
Here, fill out this form.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I'm about to get started on my regular segment, and
yeah?
I don't have the text. I'm not sure what the best way is to contact the control room about that, but I'm going to stall a bit by giving a little context that I read about this particular topic. It is, of course, as we record this, 4 days until Christmas, and I feel like this has been... like both on the nonprofits and the atheist experience, I don't feel like we've given the war on Christmas a lot of traction, but it's always there lurking in the background.
Was that not this year that we did the actual report from the trenches with the battle? That was last year.
That was at least a year ago.
Oh boy, well, missed our
Time
chance
flies.
this time.
Anyway, here's an interesting.
Too far away from the front.
Here's a random statistic for you collected by Public Policy Polling. PPP, one of the more reputable polling institutes out there, says that 60% of Trump voters think there is a war on Christmas, compared to 25% who say there isn't. 24% of Trump voters say the war on Christmas concerns them more than a potential war with China would.
What the hell?
And for more context and by way of comparison, only 34% of Americans think there's a war. Of all Americans think that there is a war on Christmas, and 51% don't. So, a little more context for people who are wildly speculating about how this is good for atheists. Conspiracy theorists, I'm just going to leave that hanging there. Anyway, there is one guy.
I have thought for a long time that the way we're really failing and what would really swing the war in our favor is we need to come up with some better weapons to use against Christmas.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Have you seen any episodes of the new show by the three people from Mythbusters that have gone off on their own? They have a show on Hulu now called The White Rabbit Project.
Okay.
And it's similar but not the same as Mythbusters. And they did one on weird World War II weapons. And one of them was stink bombs. Like bombs, but that all they do is they release fumes so unpleasant that like they did a test of them shooting guns at a target before and after the release of the stink, and it really did significantly interfere with their concentration. So I'm thinking stink bombs.
Okay.
Every time you see some Christmas, just release some stink.
Sounds great.
Okay, sorry.
But the War on Christmas
Did
is
I mention
in fact,
that show is on Hulu? White Rabbit Project is on Hulu.
Yes, you did.
Which you can
You
watch it all for
mentioned it
free.
again. Ken,
No, I said Hulu, and that's a lie. It's Netflix.
Oh, okay. Well, the War on Christmas is the topic of today's Shit Internet Apologists Say. And today we have a very special internet apologist. It's Bill O'Reilly.
Oh, boy.
Writing on foxnews.com.
You don't have a Bill O'Reilly voice.
I have. I can.
You can do Bill O'Reilly? Go ahead.
Work up a Bill O'Reilly voice.
All right.
Now, Bill O'Reilly claims that the war on Christmas has been won by the good guys, as he puts it. Which is cool, because I guess we can shut up about it now, right? You may remember that about 10 years ago, the O'Reilly Factor began spotlighting companies that refused to say the words Merry Christmas.
That's not a voice. That's just being loud.
Isn't that what
You've
Bill
got to
O'Reilly's
make
thing
him
is?
Irish or something.
Yeah. He's not that Irish.
What?
But if you insist,
No,
Bill
I don't-
O'Reilly
I
is
don't
now an angry leprechaun. Nope, too late.
Insist.
In fact, some of those businesses actually ordered their employees not to say that.
That's Scottish.
Oh, shit. Well, I've never been good at that distinction. So
Good.
I don't
It's
think-
not. It's not.
right.
It's not good.
Well, that culture war issue ignited, and we won. Most companies stopped the nonsense, and Merry Christmas became a common greeting once again. All right?
The hell?
For me, it was interesting to go through that because some on the far left actually denied there was any controversy at all and claimed that I fabricated
Yeah,
it.
you're totally just being loud. Like, could we, maybe just
That's how I think of Bill O'Reilly.
okay.
I'll get farther from the microphone, though.
All right.
More lies from a crew that is incapable of telling the truth. Anyway.
Okay. So our job here with the Shit Internet Apologists Say is to
Translate?
translate. So, so what he's doing is he's taking the fact that there never was a war on Christmas and insisting that there was, but since there's been no change, that means they won. Get it?
Right. Yeah.
There was never a war. It's like, yeah, we invaded Canada.
I stuck this banana in my ear.
We invaded Canada, and Canada still stands. Therefore, Canada won the invasion on Canada. No, there never was one.
Right.
I think
And-
that there was. I think that the war on Christmas has been around for a long time, but it began in the 16th century when
By
in
Christians.
France there was conflict between Protestants and Catholics, and the Protestants in charge banned public displays of saints. And so the Protestants made it illegal to put the effigy of St. Nicholas on a big palanquin and carry it around town. And that used to be a big deal in a lot of places. And so,
Well, that would be a war on Catholicism and with
well,
Christianity
it's a
as a
battleground.
skirmish.
It's a battleground, and that's the origin of Christkindl, Kris Kringle, which is the Christ child.
Sure, but I'm pretty sure Bill O'Reilly isn't talking about that.
No,
Did
but
the Christ child get born with the big white bushy beard?
it's a miracle.
Okay. All right.
But I think that sometimes religious folks are worried about what atheists might do because they remember what religious people happen to do to other religious people.
Yeah, the problem comes now with, I mean, it's okay with me if people like worry about something I might do and tell me, hey, I wouldn't be okay with it if you did do that. The problem is when like some guy like Bill O'Reilly asserts with no evidence whatsoever that there is this war thing going on right now. You know, that is the difference between concern about moral behavior and actually making shit up about something that's going on.
Yeah.
Or do you think that there's a current
I think there
atheist war?
was stuff that was going on now.
Yeah.
And the stuff that was going on now was called, like, you know, politeness and an attempt at inclusion. And because that meant not everything was done the way that Christians wanted, they spun that as an attack. You know, not wanting to do a thing is not an attack on that thing.
Right.
Right? If I don't go to a baseball game, that's not me making war on baseball. I'm just not going.
Well, and besides that, like, there's open hostility to people doing other non-Christmas things. I mean, as a cultural Jew, I'm kind of like very aware of this. When people are pissed off about, you know, oh, some people are saying holidays, but I'm going to say Merry Christmas just to get under their skin. It's like Happy Holidays acknowledges that some people are observing something other than Christmas at the time, and that is considered a threat.
Though that is still bigoted against
like
people
Bill
for
O'Reilly.
whom this time of the year is a time of morose sadness.
Sure.
Yeah. So, all right. What more? What other crap does he have to say?
Anyway, this year, the American Family Association, based in Tupelo, Mississippi, Elvis's hometown, thank you for that irrelevant detail, has issued its annual Naughty or Nice list. That tells the public which businesses are Christmas friendly and which are not. This year, the following companies are rated 5-star nice: Cracker Barrel, Hobby Lobby,
Of course, Hobby Lobby.
Kirkland's, Lowe's, Michael's, and Walmart. I remember at one time Lowe's was a problem, but obviously that's turned around.
Oh, good grief.
That's creepy. That's really creepy.
Uh-huh.
So those are the stores that are Christmassy enough.
Yeah, there's more.
I hate to break it to them, but I see a distinction between Hobby Lobby and Michael's, which is why I will go to Michael's and not to Hobby Lobby.
For context, after listing a bunch of other companies, which I'll just skip, he says, all these companies use the word Christmas in their advertising and promotion. That is the criteria for being on the nice list.
Okay, really? Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. See, again, that was never the issue.
Now, would you like to hear the naughty
Other people.
Yes.
Oh, good grief. Sure.
naughty companies that people who love Christmas should definitely not patronize
is
and
this what
put
he
their
says?
business on. No, but I'm hinting to our audience. I don't know. Barnes & Noble, Best Buy, Foot Locker, The Gap, The Limited, Nordstrom, Office Depot, Office Max, PetSmart, Staples, and Victoria's Secret.
Those places all practice tolerance. You better not go there.
Yeah.
No, I think that is the line that people who are atheists should consider. Is this intolerant? Are you going to a place in preference because they're promoting your religion of Santa Claus or Christmas? Or are you avoiding a place because it's got dreidels and other Hanukkah paraphernalia?
Well, I avoid Hobby Lobby because it's a freaking cult.
Yeah. But that is connected to how much they are friendly with the right-wing principle that you shouldn't acknowledge other holidays besides Christmas.
Yeah.
According to the American Family Association, those companies are not in the Christmas spirit, and that's bad news for them because Donald Trump is on the case.
Oh, good grief. All right. Wait a minute.
The Trump quote.
Wait a minute. Didn't he just say that it was already won?
Well, he said.
So why is he not?
The title is
if he's gonna give credit to a president, shouldn't our current outgoing president be the one that gets the credit? Wasn't it on his watch that this miraculous victory occurred
Obama
in
saved
his imaginary
Christmas.
war?
He says war on Christmas has been won by the good guys, but insurgents remain.
Okay,
That's
so
the other part of the headline. So, I don't know.
Do I not have a point? I think I have a point.
I think you have a point.
Okay.
I think when somebody calls you an insurgent for not celebrating your religious holiday, I've got to say, screw you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to start saying Merry Christmas again, Trump told a rally earlier this week. How about all those department stores that have the bells and they have the red walls and they have the snow, but they don't have Merry Christmas?
Red walls? Are red?
I think
We're
that's
going to
a
make
thing in The
a big
Shining.
red wall, and we're going to make the North Pole pay for it.
The walls are going to be so red under my watch. We're going to paint them red.
You're going to be sick of it. They're so red.
We're going to write red rum or something else filled with holiday cheer.
Wow. Okay.
We're going, let's see. I think they're going to start putting up Merry Christmas. And then Bill O'Reilly says, or they'll be deported. I can't tell if he's being ironic there or not.
No, because then his next word is but seriously.
But seriously.
Yeah.
All right, he's being a little ironic.
Oh, good grief. Bill, advice to Bill O'Reilly. Don't say shit like that because
Right.
we're it doesn't look like you're joking.
Right.
Yeah.
Since the war on Christmas has basically been won, this is a cleanup operation. But the information is valid. Many Americans celebrate Christmas because they believe that Jesus is the Savior and his birth should be honored. And
By Christians.
Right.
Christians are welcome to honor Jesus.
Yep.
That's their deal. And okay.
Don't like Christmas? Ignore it. I mean, if you can, while I shout it in your face. And he ends the sign off.
Isn't that exactly what businesses that don't use Christmas in the word Christmas in their advertising are doing? Aren't they
think so.
ignoring Christmas?
Well,
And then didn't he just attack them for ignoring Christmas?
I do believe he did.
I believe we have caught Bill O'Reilly in a contradiction.
Shocker.
Okay.
The O'Reilly factor is just happy that most Americans see Christmas as a positive experience, and we're happy we could contribute to that. Merry Christmas! Exclamation point.
Okay, you contributed to it by having a enemies list
Yes.
and lying.
That is the real spirit of Christmas, after all.
It's calling people insurgents.
Yep.
Yikes.
Well, and framing it as a war in the first place. All right, well, that was this week's shit Internet Apologists
Oh, that
Say.
was horrible.
Yeah.
We need a better voice for him, though, Russell. Just being. He's actually got a very distinctive voice, but it's tricky. We'll work on it. All right. Let's see how we're doing on time. About 15 minutes left. Matthew writes, "Hey guys, I was just wondering if you think that there has ever been a time in the history of mankind when there were no atheists."
That doesn't make sense to me.
On the flip side, do you think there was ever a time of 100% atheists? Okay. Right. So obviously there was a time before there was religion, and it's not clear what an atheist would be in a society where the idea just hadn't come up with yet. But I guess
It
technically,
depends
since
if
I'm
you
playing
buy,
Mr. Technical Dictionary today, those would all be atheists.
if you buy into the framework that like babies are atheists.
I do actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a case for it, but there's also a case that like being an atheist.
What's the difference between
You
an
have
atheist?
to be aware of
What's the
something that you
difference
don't
between an
believe.
atheist and a non-theist?
I feel like those are just two words that could easily have the exact same meaning.
Are babies non-theists? Yes.
Oh, are they not theists?
Yeah.
Sure.
Therefore, they're also atheists because
Sure.
they're the same word.
All right.
Okay. So,
So you'd have to have a time with no babies for there to be a time with no atheists.
Well, I mean, assuming that everybody here accepts evolution, there is some point when people, the progenitors of people just didn't have enough cognitive
right.
facilities. Like
Right.
our bugs,
And we know
atheists.
that animals will develop weird little superstitions.
Sure.
So it's possible that there wasn't ever a time when we didn't have some bullshit we believed that some people among us could reject.
It's really easy to derive your own personal spook, something
Right.
that will punish you if you don't do what you think it wants you to.
Right, but it's also pretty easy to be the next guy over, looking at the guy who has that spook and saying, "I don't believe in that."
Yeah, but do
Right.
dolphins and chimpanzees have something as individuals that is like a god?
Don't know. How would we test for that?
You
That
ask
is a
Coco in
fine
sign
question.
language.
The big gorilla.
Yes.
Um,
Let's see. He's pointing to symbols. They say, Coco want you to have this issue of Watchtower.
but then also, okay, so there's a good reason to think that the earliest hominids we would call sentient thinking beings still had irrational supernatural beliefs, but religion actually is a thing, right? Theism is actually specifically a thing,
Right.
just because you may have some superstitious beliefs doesn't mean that any of those is a god. And now we're really splitting hairs here.
Maybe.
But if we had a time when there were some people who believed in gods and other people who didn't believe in those gods, then we'd have had both kinds.
I think
Atheists
I think that even dogs are capable of animism, of taking an inanimate object and
Yes.
describing it with something like agency, like being a person.
Well,
Right.
It was
okay,
on the
but are
television show.
clams capable of animism?
They're definitely
doubt it.
atheists.
Okay, this question is: was there a time in the history of mankind? So clams are not really
Okay. Oh, well,
not open to
it's
discussion.
fine if we're going to draw a hard line about where the history of
Yes,
mankind
we're going to keep caring what words mean, Russell. Yes, we are.
I'm outraged. there's a war on me saying whatever the fuck I want.
It's really hard to say, but I mean, it seems like if we're going to accept that babies can be babies are non-theists because they don't believe in any gods, and that's the same thing as an atheist, then yes, there was a time when there were atheists and no theists. But for that reason, and because theism is actually a specific thing, you can have all kinds of superstitious beliefs that aren't theism. Right?
Sure.
On the other side, a time when everybody believed in some gods.
It was June 11th in 1911.
3:07 p.m.
When would that have ever been? Does that even make any kind of sense?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, the evidence is that even, like, we have all these guys who are coming out to the clergy project, right? People who are actually in the religion business who don't believe and have to hide the fact that they don't believe. The evidence is that even if there was a time when everybody on the planet said that they believed in a God, it was probably not true. Okay, so that's the letter from Matthew. Thank you, Matthew.
Okay.
We could do a little bit more.
All right, I shall. I wish I had an easier time finding who submitted what story, but we have a story about our buddy Kevin Sorbo.
Oh, boy.
He's teaming up with Sean Hannity. It's just a real Fox News day for us.
Wow.
For a faith-friendly movie, newsflash. Fox News' Sean Hannity has delved into filmmaking by partnering with Kevin Sorbo on a movie in which the former star of TV's Hercules: The Legendary Journeys will play a world-renowned atheist whose beliefs are dramatically challenged.
Wait a minute. This is not new. He already did this movie. Check the date on your story.
12/14/2016. It's a new, different movie
where he's playing, because he's already been
that professor guy,
college professor, atheist guy.
Not exactly typecasting.
They made a movie out of a Jack Chick tract.
And now they're making
that was movie. God's Not Dead. Have you seen it?
Now they're going to
pretty much a Jack Chick tract.
They're going to spin off his first bad movie into another bad movie.
No, they already did that too. God's Not Dead 2
so
came
this
out
is a third
recently. Yeah, but I think this is another different plot.
God remains not dead.
The movie's called Let There Be Light, and it also stars Sorbo's wife, Sam, who co-wrote the script with Dan Gordon.
Well, she might be awesome, man.
Yeah, right. She might.
We could look her up on IMDb and see what she's got to her credit. Maybe she's an awesome scriptwriter.
Oh, this is awesome. They're also giving roles to their two young sons who have been taking acting lessons from former Baywatch star Erica Eleniak.
And there are cases where people have had children who have gone on to also be good actors.
Yes, so taught by
not
Baywatch
necessarily stars. That.
I actually specifically, I mean, because I was, a young 20-something at that time, I remember Erica Eleniak well as the woman who popped out of the cake in Under Siege with that martial arts guy. Which one was that?
Jackie Chan?
No. Who's in Under Siege? Steven Seagal.
Oh.
Yeah. Also a bad actor. For all I know, Erica Eleniak may be a fine actress. I haven't seen her in very much lately. Anyway, so Let There Be Light. Kevin Sorbo said, it's been likened to Ghost meets Heaven is for Real with a dash of God's Not Dead.
Oh, boy.
It was made on a $3 million production budget. So that is
so for like
small.
pennies.
Yes. They're still working on a distribution deal.
It's going straight to video.
They expect the film to
or
open.
worse than that it's going straight to mail order video and special showings in churches.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. I believe God's Not Dead also had a smallish budget and was disgustingly successful financially. I mean, I don't have any actual numbers
but now
here.
a lot of people have learned their lesson.
What? No, I think they haven't.
How did God's Not Dead 2 do?
I don't know. I'm gonna check Box Office Mojo. God's Not Dead.
I shouldn't have even asked.
Box Office. I mean, I love numbers. Okay, so God's Not Dead 2 took in $23.5 million, which I'm willing to bet that that's a lot more than their budget. Their budget was $2 million. So, yeah, I mean, this is a business model.
Okay, and
this
God's
is the
Not
Blair
Dead,
Witch business model.
And God's Not Dead 1.
Oh, you want to know how much that made?
Yeah.
God's Not Dead box office. God's Not Dead. $60 million. So it dropped
and on a
bit.
budget of how much?
Also $2 million.
So I stand by my comment. A lot of people learned their lesson after the first one. In fact,
I
more than
suppose
half,
that is fair
more
to
than
say.
half of them.
Yep.
Okay.
So you expect the trend line to continue that way?
If they lose over half their viewership with every 10, they can maybe see 10. I mean, which is not a bad return.
Yeah,
on $3
million going to $10 million is a pretty good investment.
Did they get any atheists converting after seeing the movie?
That's a good question.
I'm sure you can find
there will be
someone
anecdotes.
who would say that they did.
Anyway, Sorbo, who is just filled with deep quotes of knowledge, says, Hollywood can be a very superficial place, but then again, so is the world.
Okay.
So are my movies.
I choose not to focus on whatever negatives that might arise from my taking a stand for what I believe in, because our beliefs are what make us human. I couldn't be the actor I am without knowing what I stand for. Not sure if I'm Kevin Sorbo or Patrick Warburton right now.
You stand for taking on the roles of people who believe differently than you and making them look bad.
Yeah, and I've read interviews by Kevin Sorbo. I think he is one of these guys who genuinely thinks that he has a bead on how atheists think. And he doesn't.
No. Well, this has been another fine episode of our show. If I must say so
has.
myself.
Thank you for filling in, Manda.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. I really have no idea what happened to Dennis this week. He just cryptically told me he couldn't make it, but that everything was fine.
He's a mysterious kind
It
of guy.
is the holiday season. He's probably doing holiday things.
How dare you? It's
Maybe
the Christmas season.
We can speculate. Anybody got plans for the next few weeks?
Stay home, play video games?
I'm gonna celebrate the Christ child because I think it's one of the most subversive myths ever.
What's that?
It's the idea that God is a bastard who doesn't understand what it's like to be subjected to floods and earthquakes and fires.
Yeah.
But if only you could get him down here to spend 30 years as a human being and then kill him off painfully and pointlessly so he'll get a taste of what injustice is like, that he'll go back to heaven and stop doing these things to us.
When you said God is a bastard, I thought you were making a literal comment on the birth of Jesus.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, that too.
Well.
So I'm going to culturally appropriate Jesus himself as a symbol of humanism and atheism. I'm going to have a creche one day.
If you say so.
Good luck with that.
Little effigy of Jesus. With the camels and the angels. It's nice.
I guess it is entirely possible that at some point in the future, the idea of the little special baby in the Middle East could be as divorced from religious belief as Halloween is to us now. It's possible. I don't know why.
Hope.
I don't know why we would still want that, but I guess you're working on it, huh? You smiled. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you've been having a bad 2016, I understand there's a lot of that going around. But as one of my favorite fictional characters always said, we still live, and therefore there's still stuff to do, and there's still a chance, and there's still things we can accomplish, and we can make things better than they ever were before.
Huzzah.
Huzzah. Okay, take care. We will see you after the new year. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.